one of the advantages in floor heating is because it warms the floor, it dries your whole floor. So your bathroom looks better for longer. You don't have to clean your bathroom as often because it's not mouldy. There's none of that residue left over from water in the room. So you're getting a nice warm bathroom, but you're also getting a cleaner, healthier bathroom.
You're listening to the She Renovates podcast. You're listening to She Renovates, the podcast for women who want to renovate to create an income and a life they love.
Hello everyone. So it's Bernadette back with another episode of She Renovates. And today I have a guest in Luke Chant from Hotwire Heating. Now we are going to be talking about underfloor heating. Now we're on the wrong side of summer, so those cooler months are going to be coming fairly soon. And I have to say, I've always shied away from underfloor heating because I had this idea that it is quite expensive or not economical to run. And I've discovered that may not necessarily be the case. So I thought I would ask Luke to come along to share the ins and outs of underfloor heating and I guess give us some insider tips on it, because I think particularly in bathrooms in your reno, it's a nice little touch of luxury, particularly in areas like Tasmania, Melbourne, Adelaide, where it does get quite cold in winter. But I'm told that even Sydney and Queensland like to have it quite warm underfoot in the colder months. So let's get into it. And welcome, Luke.
Thank you. Great to be here.
Yeah, awesome. So before we get started, can I just ask you to really describe exactly what underfloor heating, we're talking about electrical underfloor heating, exactly what that is?
Sure. So in its simplest form, it is our business is called Hotwire, and in its simplest form, it's a hot wire that is put under the floor. You can do that in a variety of different ways, but really all we're doing is running a heated piece of wire under your floor, and it heats the house from the ground up. The easiest picture that everyone would have in their head that they would know is the back window of your car when you turn your demister on, and you've got that little heating element that runs through the glass and defrosts it all. That's really what we're doing with your floor, and then we're generating heat to heat the whole home.
Awesome. And so can it go under any flooring material like timber, tiles or carpet?
Sure. So tiles are the best because they just conduct the heat better than most things do. So if you think about it, the three different floor surfaces being carpet, wood and tiles, if you had a tile in your hand, it's obviously going to conduct the heat better than the other two. But it certainly does work under those other surfaces, and we've done plenty of installations that go under carpet and floating floor as well. There's a little bit of different way to go about installing the product, but it certainly does work under both those surfaces. You would need to just check with the manufacturer. Some of the cheaper products may not be suitable over underfloor heating, so you would need to check with your manufacturer's specifications. But from our point of view, it's fine.
Okay. And so there are no safety issues with laying timber flooring over it?
No, certainly not from if you're sort of heading in the will it catch fire direction. There's certainly no issues there. Some of the cheaper products, there may be an issue with them warping, which is why I said you need to check with your manufacturer. Yeah. Things that have got a much lower moisture content. So if you're looking at a bamboo floor or the new hybrid flooring that is starting to make a splash in the market, those sorts of products are fine.
Okay, great. And now I did a bit of research on this, so you can forgive me if my questions are a bit, irrelevant. So you can just tell me it's irrelevant and we'll just edit it out.
No, that's fine. Go for it.
The heat pump, because when I researched underfloor heating, I found that there was a lot talking about the water one, the one
hydronic,
with pipes, runs through pipes. Mm-hmm. And one of the things I came up with is a query about it working with a heat pump. Would that be more relating to that other type of underfloor heating?
Yeah, so a heat pump's actually it's depends on where you are in Australia. In Tasmania, a heat pump is a reverse cycle air conditioner, is what they refer to as a heat pump down there. They don't need the air conditioning part of it very often in Tassie, so it's just called a heat pump. And depending on where you are in Australia, it has different connotations. But hydronic heating is where pipes are run water pipes that run under the floor. So it's a different concept to electric floor heating. Does quite a good job as well. And if you're doing a really large area, hydronic is an okay solution. But there's a lot of setup cost just to get the job underway. So electric floor heating you can do in a old tiny little 1 square meter ensuite in a granny flat if you wanted to, whereas you could never do that with hydronic heating.
Yeah, and you've just prompted my memory. I'm pretty sure we've had a heat pump hot water service. So yes, that confirms.
Yeah.
So sorry about that red herring.
No problems at all.
Is electric underfloor heating sufficient to heat a room, or do you need to have another form of heating as well?
Yeah, great question, and it's I guess a common misconception about the product. So I've had it in my own home as the only heating we've had in living areas on a couple of occasions, and it is certainly as long as your house is well insulated and well put together, then floor heating will heat the room quite nicely. We used to have it when my kids were little, and they'd lie on the floor and do their homework on on tiled floor, which you just never get them doing. If it wasn't yet heated under there, because tiles are cold in winter, obviously. So yeah, it'll certainly heat the room. And if you're having it in a wet area, you don't need things like a heat lamp unit installed anymore. You do the floor heating instead of that. And it's much nicer heat. No one really likes those heat lamp units. It's just people don't realise there's a decent alternative. But particularly when you're at the taller side of things, I'm 194 centimetres or 6'4". Those heat lamp units are really close to the top of my head, so they're quite uncomfortable. But even if you're not quite as tall as me, no one really likes the heat lamp units. They're really bright to start with, so that's not great first thing in the morning. And they just don't generate a really nice heat, whereas floor heating right across the floor will heat the whole bathroom really nicely, and it's a very nice form of heat.
Yeah, actually, it's really funny because I have seriously never considered underfloor heating, and we're about to do 4 bathrooms in our house. And my husband really hates the cold tile floor, even in Sydney.
Yep.
So I think probably it is something that I should be considering.
I'm sensing I might get a phone call in a couple of weeks from you about helping you out with some floor heating.
Maybe, yeah. We're still in the DA process, but it will happen.
Sure.
It's just when. Okay, so the other thing that I thought about was it's quite expensive. So, and you've told me that that's not the case.
Yeah. So,
do you want to just elaborate on that?
Yeah. So one of the things I like to do when I'm doing training with a new customer, doing some sales training or even a presentation on floor heating, is I'll ask the question, what do you think it would cost to put floor heating in an average bathroom? And most people, the average answer I get is $2,500 to $3,000. I actually did this at a conference of business owners a few weeks ago, and I was up in front of them doing a sort of a little exercise, and I asked everyone in the room, and there were probably 200 business owners in the room, and some people came back at $10,000, and some people came back at $5,000, and it's a real misconception in the market that floor heating is that expensive. It's realistically in most bathrooms, it's fully installed for under $1,000.
Yeah, that's really
which is just so much cheaper than most people think. So a lot of people don't even ask for floor heating when they're renovating or building because they have a perception that it's going to cost them thousands of dollars. They never even ask the question. But yeah, it's fully installed for under $1,000 in an average bathroom. And even if you have a particularly big bathroom, that might get to $1,200. It's not going to suddenly go to $2,000. It might be a fraction more, but not a lot.
Yeah. And what about the costs of running it? Sure. The installation's one bit, but yeah.
So if we go back to the heat lamp unit equation for a moment, so the average heat lamp unit, and I'm going to use some electrical terms that I'll try and keep it simple. If the average heat lamp unit runs at about 1,500 watts or 1.5 kilowatts for a different term, so about 1,500 watts. The average floor heating system fully installed in an average bathroom, our biggest selling system is 600 watts. So you don't need to know a lot about electricity to know that 600 is a lot better than 1,500 if you're paying for what you use. So 600 watts has been our biggest selling system for a long time, and that does most bathrooms. So it's a lot cheaper to run than a heat lamp unit, which is what most people buy without thinking about it. And they just throw, a couple of hours a day running a heat lamp unit and don't even consider the costs. So that's the electrical side of it. In actual real dollar terms, what we quote is around 2 cents every square meter every hour. So 2 cents per 1 square meter every hour. And what that equates to, in an average bathroom has about 4 to 5 square meters of actual exposed floor area. So by the time you take out the bath and the shower and the vanity and areas that you probably wouldn't heat under, you're left with about 4 square meters. So if we work on that 2 cents per square meter per hour, then it's about 8 cents an hour to run your floor heating in most bathrooms. So if you only run it for a couple of hours a day or even 3 hours a day, you spent 24 cents.
Yeah,
so
that's amazing.
So really cheap. And even if you go into a living area, the average living room system we sell is about 40 to 43 square meters. And so that system, again, 80 cents an hour. So even if you run that for a few hours in a nighttime, you've spent $1.60. So a third of what you spent on your morning coffee to run your floor heating that night. So much more cost effective than most people think.
And is there sort of guidelines on how to use it? Like, sometimes with electrical things, they say you better not to turn them off and just leave them on because it takes more to heat them up. What's the go with underfloor heating?
Yeah, so there's a couple of different types of floor heating. So it depends exactly which you buy. So under tile heating, which is what most people use, takes about 30 to 60 minutes to heat up. And there's another option in some states of Australia where the bathroom floors are built with a sand and cement screed. We don't do that in Victoria, but in New South Wales and South Australia, they do. You'd most often use Inspreed heating, and that goes a bit deeper in the floor, but it still only takes a couple of hours to heat up. So we're talking 30 to 60 minutes for most and maybe 1 to 2 hours. So the next logical jump from that is, well, how do we turn it on and off? Because you don't want to wait 2 hours for your floor to be warm in the morning. So every Hotwire system comes with a fully programmable thermostat. So you program that around your lifestyle. So you would switch that to come on if you're in your bathroom at 6 in the morning, then your bathroom switches on at 5 automatically. And by the time you get in there, it's already nice and toasty warm.
That sounds really good. Yep. So just let's go to the installation since we've sort of touched on that.
Sure.
So when you say it costs about $1,000 for an average bathroom to install it, who actually does that?
Yeah, so legally it does need to be installed by an electrician. There has been a few changes in the legislation over the last few years, and some states are a bit clearer about the requirements than others, but it does need to be installed by an electrician. What happens in a lot of cases is a tiler might install it, or even a plumber, and then the electrician signs off on it. And in that case, it's really as if the tiler is working as an apprentice for the electrician, and they sign off. And if the electrician signs off that the job's done and they're happy to put their name on it, that's okay. But the electrician could turn around and say, if he didn't actually see the work done, the electrician could turn around and say, hey, I'm not prepared to do that. So we have a network of installers across Australia that are all electricians, and it should be done by an electrician.
Okay. Yeah. So, but when you're talking about Inspreed wiring, that's something that the tiler would have to do, isn't it? Because the tiler does the floor screed.
Yeah, no, we would just do it before the tiler arrives on the job. So it's just a bit of job management. So even though you're not doing any electrical connections when you install floor heating, because it's an electrical wire, it does legally still need to be performed by an electrician.
Yeah, yeah. And so the waterproofing, where does that sit? It's underneath the heating, or?
Yeah, so two different products, two different questions. So whether we're doing under tile or in screed heating. So it doesn't actually matter for the floor heating. Different people will put the waterproofing in, sometimes under a screed, sometimes on top of the screed. If there's no screed involved, like in Victoria, then it would just be the floor, the waterproofing, and then the underfloor heating.
Yeah. Okay.
So yeah, it just depends exactly how you're building your bathroom.
And so I know that when we are doing a bathroom, we will often ask the tiler what's the finished floor height before we actually have the floor in, so that we can inform the plumber so we can set the toilet and things plumbing up correctly. What difference to that height does wiring make? Any?
Yeah, well, if we're talking about under tile heating, and I'll answer the question for both products, I'm sure you've got listeners all around Australia. So if we're talking about under tile heating, then it's 4 millimeters thick and goes on top of the floor. Now, that can actually be absorbed into the tile glue because your tile glue is always going to be thicker than 4 millimeters. So it doesn't necessarily add anything to the floor height because it just gets absorbed into the glue. Your tiler may prefer to put a skim coat of self-leveling compound or a skim coat of glue over the element to make a flat surface. So if they do that, we're going to add 4 mil to the floor height. If we talk about Inspreed heating, then the Inspreed heating cable is about 8 millimeters thick, and that's definitely embedded in the screed, so it doesn't add to your floor height at all. So, yeah,
beautiful.
It doesn't necessarily add to your floor height; just depends on how you build it.
Yeah. Okay, let me see where I'm at with my little list of questions. What goes wrong with underfloor heating?
Yeah, I was waiting for that one. So, certainly a big question is what happens when something goes wrong. It's an electric cable buried under your floor. There are obvious questions around that, and the answers are really simple. So, firstly, from a safety point of view, there's no issues around any issues with water. You can even put it if you've got a walk-in shower and it's a tiled shower base. You can put it in the shower. There are no issues around safety or concerns with that side of things, so you're perfectly fine there. One of the things we do with the Hotwire cable when it's installed is there's a little alarm that's connected to the end. So the element's installed on the floor. The what we call the element tails are pulled up through the wall, and then we install a little alarm on the end. And the alarm, if the cable gets damaged by the tiler or a chippy drops a hammer or something in the room, this alarm starts screaming at them and lets them know that the element's been damaged and it can be repaired straight away. So that's a really great safeguard so that there's people are comfortable that the job's finished and there's no damage to the heating element when the job is done. And then when the tiles are finished and the bathroom's ready, you simply disconnect the alarm and install the thermostat on the wall. Now that's great, but what if someone didn't connect the alarm properly or there was some sort of other issue? And look, we do have warranty claims on the cable. So obviously we don't have many or we wouldn't be in business because it's not particularly cheap to fix a fault under the floor. So look, there are issues occasionally where somebody might have damaged it and not had the alarm connected properly, and so then the floor's finished and there's an issue. And what we do there is we get a bit James Bond about it, Bernadette. And we actually have a thermal imaging camera where we can put power down the cable, and where it's damaged, it actually glows. So you can see the heating element perfectly clearly under the tile. With a red line, and then where it's damaged, it actually generates a hotspot, and we can find the fault. Generally fix it by only removing one tile. It might be that, for example, that the damage is under the join between two tiles, or perhaps even three if you're exceptionally unlucky. But generally that doesn't happen, and we can find the fault with a thermal camera, see exactly where it is, remove one tile, fix the heating element, and replace the tile. So. Yeah, it's nowhere near as complicated as you might think.
Awesome. Yep. And so that alarm system, is that something specifically in your system, or is it something that's generally?
No, most of my competitors do offer the same thing. Hotwire was the first company. If I can spruik my wares for a moment, Hotwire was the first company in Australia to offer it as a standard feature in their underfloor heating systems. But most of my competitors do now offer an alarm as well.
So, but it would always be a good idea, whatever you're getting, to check that it's got that, because I would imagine
absolutely,
that's a pretty important part. I have actually seen...
Certainly. Sorry, yes. So if the floor heating system you're looking at doesn't include an alarm, then you've got no guarantee that it hasn't been damaged when you finish the job. So yeah, certainly wouldn't be using one if it didn't have an alarm.
Yeah. I did read something about floor tiles cracking. Is that something that happens with underfloor, like in terms of the heating causing them to crack?
Sure. So the heating element itself gets to around about 40 degrees. You can hold it in your hand if it was connected, and it just feels like a dull warmth. And tiles are made in a kiln, at a zillion degrees. So there's just simply no way that the heating element has enough power to crack the cable. And some of our biggest customers are tile stores. Indeed, Australia's largest tile chain, Beaumont Tiles, has been our customer for coming up to 18 years now. We've been selling to Beaumonts, and we have never had a warranty claim come back on a tile cracked through a product we've sold there. So question that is asked often, but yeah, we've just simply never had an issue like that. And indeed, it's not even possible. The element just does not get hot enough to do that to a tile.
That's good to know. So are there any questions that I haven't asked you that I should have?
Well, there's a question around how to control it in a bit more detail. So one thing people like to do nowadays is also look at a Wi-Fi or a smart wiring system to control their underfloor heating. And again, Hotwire was the first underfloor heating provider to offer a thermostat that you could connect through to the Google Home system. So we have a Wi-Fi thermostat where you can connect it to an app on your phone, to the Google Home app. And you'd be on your way home from work and you've forgotten to turn your floor heating on and it's a colder day than you thought. So you just yell at your phone and say, hey, Google, turn on my floor heating. And apologies for everybody whose phone just recognized that I said, hey, Google, and started doing something. You can just say, hey, Google, turn on my floor heating. And your floor heating will be switched on by the time, immediately and warm by the time you get home. So that's an optional upgrade to our system. It makes it an additional $160 at retail level. So not a massive cost, but one that is nice if you're more technologically inclined and looking at a smart home system. Then that's really good. And you can also links in with the Amazon Alexa system as well as the Google Home. So it's heaps of fun actually.
It's so great, isn't it? Like I remember the days, and it wasn't that long ago, that if you wanted anything high tech in your home, you had to spend a fortune on a fancy system, whereas now so much can be controlled via it's fantastic.
Yeah, and the Google ecosystem is really good for that sort of thing. It's just it's an app that most people have on their phone anyway, and it's you can just link it in. It's really handy, and look, it's a great fun thing to show your friends when you're just sitting on your couch and you yell at your phone or you yell at your Google Home system to turn on your floor heating and hear it click on the other side of the room. It's nice and good fun.
Awesome. And there's just one question that I didn't include on you about. So what's the wildest thing that you've had happen with floor heating, underfloor heating? What's the wildest scenario? Might have been the most lavish home or...
the weirdest request I've had for floor heating was we supplied floor heating to a company in Outback Victoria, and the name of the town escapes me at the moment, but we put it in their piggery for all the pregnant sows to keep them warm, as they were nearing the end of their pregnancy. So we there's a couple of piggeries out there that have all the pregnant sows get to lie on a nice warm floor thanks to Hotwire. So
and do they tile them as well, or is it just in?
I think on that job from memory, it was a few years ago now, but I think we put it in a thin layer of concrete for them, so the pregnant sows were nice and warm. But we've done a few around the place. Even a snake place rang me once, and there's a few spas around that have done it so that the edge of the baths. So when you go into the nice spa places where you get pampered and you got the dark rooms and all those kind of thing, the edges of the bath have all got hot wire in them. So even when you're sitting on the edge of the bath getting in, your butt doesn't get cold as you lower your legs into the spa. So we've done all sorts of interesting things, even including we've done some like prayer rooms for a couple of different groups where they wanted particularly warm on the tiled seats around the edges of the prayer rooms and things. So we've done that. So all sorts of weird and wonderful applications we've done over the years, but certainly the vast majority in people's homes to keep their houses warm. One of the features that we didn't touch on was one of the real advantages that floor heating offers that people don't often consider is particularly in a wet area. Wet areas are often, by definition, wet. So if you're putting floor heating in, as we're heating the floor, it also dries it, so they're no longer wet. Now, what that means in practical senses is, I'm sure everybody listening, if you think to your bathroom, unless your bathroom is brand new, I can almost guarantee you that your grout lines don't look as good as when they were installed between your tiles. And the reason they don't look as good is because they're often wet. So you have a shower, you do your best to dry the floor, and you not to drip on your floor, but you're certainly in the shower areas and in the bathroom, the grout lines go the wrong color pretty quickly. One of the advantages in floor heating is because it warms the floor, it dries your whole floor. So your bathroom looks better for longer. You don't have to clean your bathroom as often because it's not mouldy. There's none of that residue left over from water in the room. So you're getting a nice warm bathroom, but you're also getting a cleaner, healthier bathroom. And the same thing applies in living areas. It's the only heating that really sufferers of allergies and asthma can really cope with. So if any of your listeners have got little kids with allergies and asthma, then underfloor heating is the greatest way for them to heat their home because there's no air and dust being blown around the room, which is what activates allergies.
Yeah.
Wow. So yeah, a couple of extra little benefits that a lot of people don't realize, but are actually really big selling points. If you've got allergies, it's what do you do other than just be cold or have hot air blown in your face? A lot of people don't realize there's an alternative. So that's great, and nobody likes cleaning their bathroom. I mean, let's face it, we all hate. I think if there's any room in the house that we all put off cleaning the longest, it's the bathroom. Well, if you get Hotwire, you can probably clean it a few less times than you would have otherwise.
And I would imagine it would also help minimise the incidence of mould.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Because it's warm all the time, so you just don't get that build up. So
yeah,
yep,
well, that's great
as well.
So there's just one more thing we need to do. So if someone wants to learn more about it, where do they go? And I know you've mentioned Beaumont's. Sure. Where would you recommend that they look to find where they can source the product?
Sure. So we've got a lot of information on our website and on our YouTube channel. You can certainly, you're welcome to contact us directly. That's no problem at all. You can contact us and we can direct you to a retailer. We've got various online retailers as well, so you can buy the product without even leaving your couch if you so choose. But yeah, certainly Beaumont tiles are a great resource. Most of their stores around Australia have got a Hotwire display. You can go in there and the setting closest to the door will probably have a Hotwire in the setting, and you can go and stand there and feel what it's actually like to have it in a bathroom. But if there's no Beaumont's nearby, then you can certainly contact us and we can direct you to another retailer, no problems at all.
Beautiful. Well, listen, thank you for your time, Luke, and that was really informative. I think we will be seeing more floor heating going in as a result of this episode. So I really appreciate you taking the time, and we will also include your contact details with the episode on our website and in the show notes, so that anyone that's interested can follow up.
No problems at all. Really appreciate your time. Thank you to your listeners for listening through, and please feel free to contact us if you've got any questions. We'd love to help you get hot-wired.
Awesome. Thank you. That's a great little catchphrase.
If you want to meet up with a group of savvy renovating, I shouldn't say it's all women because it's not, savvy renovators, I'll say, come over and join She Renovates. It's completely free Facebook group and it is growing at the rate of knots. We hit 1,000 members just recently and now it seems to have picked up momentum. And so they are all savvy renovating women and men that are working their little hearts out to live a better life through renovating. Join if you're not already a member, and then ask, comment, and do whatever you would like to do in order to further your renovation journey. And that's it for me today, so I'll see you next week.
This is the She Renovates podcast. To discover how to harness the power of renovating, check out theschoolofrenovating.com.